All right, welcome to another episode of Being a Ninja. My special guest today is Nadeem Jiwani. He is the founder and owner of Float Valley in Markham, right in my hometown, not too far from us. Awesome place, by the way. Brought the whole team out there to check it out. Beautiful spot. He's in there right now with that beautiful background. But a little bit of background on Nadeem. He graduated University of Waterloo in psychology and business. Shortly after graduating, he went out and took the entrepreneurial plunge and opened up Float Valley. It's a wellness center that has a float therapy, infrared sauna, and yoga. He's very much into wellness and biohacking. So you can follow him at Biohack Nadeem. Cold showers, detox methods, exercise, sleep, flow states, etc. Lots of alternative therapies for you to get your health on. And he just started a new business called Flow CBD, which we will talk about a little bit about today as well. Nadeem, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me on here.
My pleasure. All right, so let's talk about how you started this thing, this Float Valley up from all the way from the beginning. How'd you get into this float business?
Well, originally I went downtown and I tried my first float at Float Toronto. They're at Queen Street. That was when I was in my third year of university. So around that time, I kind of started getting into these wellness activities. Once I started floating, I noticed that there was a kind of a different relaxation that came about me. I was able to tap into a meditative state that I wasn't really able to get into otherwise without this environment. And it kind of allowed me to change the way I perceive the world, the way I act in the world, and the way I just carry myself. And I found that it was very beneficial in the sense that it gave me the motivation to kind of want to get into the gym more, want to go try different things like yoga and rock climbing. After floating a bunch, I went back to school and I wanted to find a float center there. And there was a guy that had a float tank in his basement, actually. And he was doing that for about 20 years. I got to float with him a bunch of times, and he mentioned to me that there was a float center opening in Waterloo. And so I was lucky enough to become their first employee. And so that's kind of how I learned everything to do with floating. It gave me the kind of the business background.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you right there. Just for the people that don't know what floating is, can you describe what it is? Because there may be people who don't have no idea what float is.
Yeah, it might sound a bit weird if I just keep talking about floating. Yeah, so basically what it is we have these large, they're called float tanks. So they're about 10 feet long, 4 feet wide. It's like the size of a giant bathtub. There's about 10 inches of water in there and 800 pounds of Epsom salts infused in the water, or magnesium. And so that allows you to float effortlessly on the 10 inches of water, just kind of like you'd be laying in a water bed. The environment is enclosed, and so you close the door, and when you get in, the lights turn off, and it's completely light-proof, soundproof. And because you're floating in this water that is heated to the same temperature as your body, you don't actually feel anything either. And so the idea is complete sensory deprivation. And while you're in there, you are floating, and you go in for about an hour, and your mind and body go into a very deep state of relaxation during that time. Just because there's no external stimuli, everything kind of shuts down and slows down. You're forced to focus inwards, and you get into a very deep meditative state. And when you come out, you feel very relaxed mentally, physically, just because the Epsom salts is absorbing through your skin. So muscles get relaxed, pain is decreased, and overall you feel just really nice when you come out. And so people do that as a service, just like they would go for a massage or go for a yoga class. It's just more of a non-human to human contact. You're just kind of doing your own thing in there.
All right. So for those that don't know, go ahead. Keep going, Dave.
So yeah, I got into floating, and when I started doing it, I just kind of fell in love with it very quickly, and quickly wanted to learn more about it. Luckily, I had this opportunity to work for these two guys in Waterloo, and I got to do that for about a year until I finished school. And once that was over, then I came back to Markham, and there was no float centers in the GTA at this time. It was just that one or two downtown, and then up north there's one in Barrie. We opened in Markham, just across from Markville Mall, just about 3 years ago. And we have 6 float tanks, 2 infrared saunas, and 2 yoga rooms as well.
That's amazing. So talk to me about this journey into actually opening up your own float center. I know you worked for one at first. Like, what made you take the jump and say, this is what I wanted to do?
Well, it was actually the people's reactions when they would come out of their float tank that kind of got me inspired to doing this, because they were having people go in with the expectation that, oh, you know, they're just going to kind of get the benefits that they would of a massage and they'll feel relaxed. But people come out with such profound experiences. For example, one lady had it where she was in a car accident. She couldn't bend down to even touch her toes. And after coming out of a float tank, she was able to completely touch her toes and was pain-free. Then she hasn't experienced anything like that for 5 years. And so the people coming out of the tanks were so amazed, and so they're finding so much benefit, that I thought to myself that this is kind of something that I need to get into, or need to explore more, because people are feeling so good afterwards. And it also worked for me, and in my situation too. I found that this mental clarity that I had never really gotten from anywhere else. And my friends, the same thing. And so I found that it was just so beneficial and something I had to be a part of, kind of thing.
Okay, so it worked for you. You've seen results from so many people that did this. You saw your own personal changes from it as well. So you were saying, and when you came back here, you're like, you know what, I'm going to open up this is what I got to do to help people. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the journey of opening up your own studio and like your own business.
So it was definitely interesting. It started off, well, the nice part about it is actually my dad is an entrepreneur himself. And so I got a lot of guidance in that section in terms of how to deal with lease, how to negotiate for that, how to create a business plan, how to go and get a loan from the bank. And then my uncle actually is in construction. And so I got the opportunity to learn from him on how to kind of do general contracting, in the sense of how do we do the plumbing here and put up the walls and the insulation. Float Valley was, when we got this space, it was just a shell. And so we put up the walls, we did the plumbing, the electrical. So the learning experience was quite amazing, in the sense that I got to do everything just from not having any previous experience. And so kind of learning through the experience was really nice. And I had a lot of mentorship, which really helped, because I think otherwise I would have had some trouble putting it all together. So yeah, it was really nice that I had family help, and then just got to go through the process of construction. It took about 7 months to build out the center. And during that time, we kind of, ordered the float tanks. Some of them came from the UK, some of them came from California. Kind of dealing with suppliers and getting all the construction stuff. It was quite a fun job and adventure. But then once it was all over, then kind of starting the business was a whole nother journey, and dealing with the staffing and sending up the tanks. When constructing this place, it was a little bit different than constructing your general spa, in the sense that we had to deal with a lot of waterproofing, soundproofing issues. And so working with the contractors and things like that was an interesting experience, because they hadn't dealt with the situation like this before. So it was kind of like doing a custom home in a sense, because each room had to be done specifically so that we can get the proper experience for the customers.
Yeah, if you're ever in the Markham area, it's a beautiful, beautiful spot. They did an amazing job with it. So definitely one to check out. What would you say your biggest fail forward with this whole thing is? Like the one thing that was like, oh, I screwed up, but I learned so much from it.
Honestly, finding the location was a very difficult thing for us. It took a long time to, first of all, find this place, and then to negotiate the price and to kind of get it somewhere that we needed to be. In hindsight, I would have chosen a place that was slightly smaller. Dealing with the rent in the first year and a little bit with a place that was this size was tough. We originally just started out with the float tanks. We didn't have the saunas, and we didn't have the yoga. So part of the space was underutilized, and that probably did hurt us in the beginning and kind of prevented us from getting to a break-even point when we wanted to. But yeah, in hindsight, I probably would have gone with a smaller place, just so that it's easier to take care of. The rent would have been better, that kind of thing.
For sure, that overhead is definitely a killer. I could attest to that. So what would you say? What would you say has been your biggest aha moment so far in having run this business for about 3 years now? Has it been over 3 years?
Just almost 3 years now.
Almost 3 years. So far, what have you been biggest aha moment in the last 3 years?
Well, one thing I definitely didn't anticipate was the amount of marketing that needed to be done. In my head, it was like, I got a great product or a great service. Once I open, and people are going to be interested in it, and they're just going to come in. And I quickly found out that wasn't the case, and that you really have to put yourself out there and kind of go out and really get people to come in. And once they try the float once or twice, then they become the customers, the clients that you're looking for. And also before starting this business, I was probably more of an introverted person and more kept to myself, but I found that having to do this, and you have to be a little bit more extroverted and be able to put yourself out there and communicate with different kinds of people so that they can come and try the service, and it's just how it helps to build a community that way. So it was just a little bit of learning, or a little bit stepping out of my own comfort zone to be able to get there.
Yeah, I always say like being a business owner is like being the mayor of the town. You got to go around, shake hands, kiss babies. you gotta get out there. Cool. So I want to take this into a second business that you started, Flow CBD. How did you start this thing, and what is it actually?
So CBD is it's a compound of the hemp plant. It's known as cannabidiol, and basically what it does is it's one of the cannabinoids found in the hemp plant, and it's great for pain relief. It's good for mental health. It's a very relaxing compound. So what people have been using it for at Float Valley is that they will take the CBD just before going into the float tank, and they find that they're able to get into a deeper state of meditation quicker, just because their mind is more at ease, their muscles are more at ease, and they feel more relaxed. And so we started selling CBD products about 1.5 years ago at Float Valley, and it quickly became one of our most popular retail products. A lot of the people were finding extreme benefit from it in terms of if they have taken pain medication or they have chronic pain, they were able to slowly start to switch over to CBD, which was quite amazing because it has very little side effects in comparison to the traditional pain medications. At the same time, people are using it for anxiety, for depression, for PTSD, and it's got so many uses. And it works for a variety of people. It works for pets as well. But a lot of people coming to purchase it for their pets that have had a stroke or that have also mental health conditions, and have found tons and tons of benefits. So over the last 1.5 to 2 years, we've been getting quite a few people coming in for CBD. And I recently found out that there's actually a way to do it slightly better. So the compound that we were purchasing before was a CBD isolate, which was it was one compound of CBD, whereas CBD has, or cannabinoids, there are many of them in the hemp plant, and they all have their own health benefits. So there's others known as CBN or CBG that are good for eyes and good for skin and things like that. And what they do, if you're able to combine them, it's called full spectrum CBD. So having CBD as the main compound and these other small amounts or trace amounts of CBN, CBG, that kind of thing actually help activate the CBD and give it make it more efficient. And so we decided to kind of create this Flow CBD company, and I'm targeting wellness businesses as a place to put their CBD in, so they can provide it to the customers as a recovery support or for mental health support, or something like at the float centers where it kind of helps you get into a relaxed state so you can enjoy the service a little bit better. And so we started off by purchasing or by creating tinctures. So basically the tinctures, they go under the tongue. And it has an MCT oil as the carrier. So it's a coconut-based oil. It just goes under your tongue, and within about 20 minutes or so, you feel a little bit more relaxed. And it's great for a variety of things, pain-free kind of thing.
CBD is definitely a up-and-coming, huge wellness product, and you jumped on the bandwagon soon. So it's good that you got involved in that. I want to touch on now, as a business owner and running multiple businesses, I've seen your stuff, your wellness routines, but I want you to tell the people what you do yourself to stay healthy and fit while running these multiple businesses of yours.
Well, yeah, so I like to generally have routines. I find that's kind of the best way for me to be able to get these things done in time and also to fit them into my schedule effectively. I like to do a morning routine that kind of helps me set the day off on a good note. I find that if I start my day right, then the rest of the day goes really well, and I end up being in a good flow state. But if I don't start off the day right, then the rest of the day doesn't end up being as efficient as I would like. Usually what I do when I wake up is I start the day with something a little bit energizing. I find that getting into a cold shower is a very quick way to snap your mind into a focused place. It kind of fires up your body. It wakes you up naturally without the need of caffeine. And it's great for a bunch of things, for metabolism and skin and etc. So usually what I do is I start my day with a shower. I turn it warm in the beginning, soap myself off, and at the end I do about 1.5 minutes as cold as I can go. And I find that really psychs me up and gets me ready for the day. After the cold shower is over, I try to get some kind of form of sunlight. So whether it's either going outside or it's using like a vitamin D lamp for a couple minutes, that works well for me. And then I get some kind of exercise in. So an hour of something that makes me sweat, whether it's yoga or I'm doing deep stretching, or it's a HIIT workout, or just going to the gym and doing calisthenics. Those are the kind of things I do. And then once my workout is done, if I have time, then I would do a sauna or a float or something like that. But otherwise, I'll get into my work zone. And I find that if I do that morning routine, then my work becomes effortless. It's a lot easier to get into the zone, and all of a sudden I've got everything I need done and the day's over and you feel really good. And then I usually have some kind of evening routine around the time I eat, and go to bed at a certain time if I can. One thing I do like to incorporate is intermittent fasting. And so I'm doing that for about 2 years now. And I find that has really kind of upped my game in terms of my workouts are a lot more efficient and powerful. And at the same time, my schedule is a lot better because I'm only eating starting after about 2 or 3 o'clock. So it allows my morning routine to happen really well. And then I can get into a work zone, and then I'll start eating usually.
That's amazing. So I want to talk about a few things you said there. Number one, the cold shower. This is going to be for most people like one of the most uncomfortable things that they could do. Why talk about a little bit more about the benefits of a cold shower?
Sure. And so being uncomfortable has merits too. In the morning, especially, I find that if you're tired, or if you didn't get a good sleep, or if it's cold outside, it's kind of hard to get out of bed with a lot of energy and vigor. Getting into the cold shower kind of challenges your mind right off the bat of the day. It makes you face your fear right away, and the rest of the day ends up being a lot easier to deal with these issues or these fears that may come up. So kind of getting into the cold shower just snaps you into that place, gives you a lot of energy, and just I find I don't need to drink coffee or anything anymore, which I usually used to, just because I'm doing these cold showers.
Amazing. And so cold showers snaps your body, wakes you up. Talk about metabolism a little bit, because I don't think a lot of people know about cold showers and how it affects your metabolism and increases fat loss. There's the magic word for a lot of people.
It does. Yeah. So, I mean, it does switch. So when you get into the cold state, your body starts to go into kind of a different state. It doesn't, your body thinks that it's actually dying just because of the cold. So all the blood will kind of rush to your heart. And the nice benefit is that once you get back into a warmer area, that blood that rushes to your heart gets oxygenated and it goes to all the parts of your body. So then that's why you end up feeling really good and really awake after. At the same time, your metabolism does spike and you're able to kind of burn more fat over time naturally with this method.
There you go. So a little trick there to burn a little bit more body fat. I'm going to touch on sauna use too, because that's me. I'm really big into saunas. I know you are too. And talk about the benefits of doing a daily sauna practice.
Yeah, so I mean, I find I like to do my sauna right after the gym because my body is warm, and so it's kind of receptive to detoxing. And that's kind of the biggest benefit of the sauna, in my opinion, is the fact that you can detox on such a deep level. Any kind of sauna, whether it's infrared or dry or wet sauna, it heats up your body and allows you to sweat out whatever toxins, or it also allows you to burn a lot of calories really quickly. So people will go into the sauna, they'll get a really good sweat on and they'll come out, they'll feel really relaxed. Their skin will be really clear, and you also lose a lot of weight during the sauna. So people that are using it, perhaps if they're fighters, they might use it to cut weight. It's very good for cutting water weight. There's a variety of saunas. So there's the infrared sauna, which uses infrared waves to heat you up. So instead of using the air around you to heat you, it sends infrared waves into your body, into your cells, which causes your core body temperature to then heat up. And so you kind of heat up from the inside out, rather than with a traditional sauna from the outside in. And so that has different benefits as well.
Yeah. Love sauna use. I think me personally, I've been converted in the last year or so, just because every winter I used to get sick, and I said, this winter, that's it, I'm never getting sick. And knock on wood, I haven't gotten sick or anything. And I think a lot had to do with a strong sauna game and a strong sauna practice. Because with the increases in white blood cell count and increases in immunity. And I know Dr. Rhonda Patrick, she talked about it. You follow Dr. Rhonda Patrick? Yeah. Like she talked about it about like fever mimicking. So your body actually gets better at fighting viruses. So something special about sauna use.
Absolutely. That's something I missed on the cold shower as well. They're both very powerful immunity boosters. And so even the combination of the two is incredible, because you can go from really hot to really cold, and that's very beneficial too for the body.
And I want to talk about, you mentioned something earlier about being uncomfortable. I think this is something that's it's almost like a first world problem we're running into. I don't want your opinion on this. It's like we're so comfortable in our lives right now that we are so afraid to be in very hot, very cold, and very uncomfortable places. Like we walk in our houses that are air conditioned, get in our cars that are air conditioned. Even in the winter, we blast the heat, and you wonder why people are so like unmotivated to do things in being in such a first world. Do you kind of see that? Do you kind of have that feeling?
Oh, absolutely. I find that, I mean, we weren't built with shoes, and we didn't have clothes, and we didn't have hats and all these warm things. So when we're outside, I guess our bodies have been built to be able to withstand these cold temperatures and actually thrive in them. And so by protecting us in the way that we are now with all this warmth and comfort, I think we might actually be doing a disservice to ourselves a little bit, just because our bodies are not necessarily adapted to always be that comfortable. And if it gets too comfortable, then it doesn't function the same way that it optimally could. And so I think that by doing these things that actually make you uncomfortable, like cold baths and just putting your body into stressful situations, you actually kind of improve yourself, and you're able to function at a higher capacity that way.
Even this even applies to workouts. People that don't even want to work out, it's like, I don't want to be uncomfortable, I don't want to sweat, I don't want my muscles to ache, and you wonder why you risk all these like preventable issues and diseases that happen. In like, people are getting all these cancers, all these different things. I'm not saying it's a direct correlation, but I think there's a huge impact of moving and getting uncomfortable and moving homeostasis up and down a little bit in your body, right?
For sure. And even dealing with stress, right? Because if you're used to doing these things that make you uncomfortable, then your stress tolerance is a lot higher, I think. And stress is such a huge factor in a lot of the sicknesses and diseases that we have today. So for people that are able to deal with stress in unique ways, they're able to then stay healthier. But for those that are used to just being comfortable all the time, and when the stress does come in, it does affect them a little bit more.
For sure. Cool. I want to talk a little bit about a little bit more back into business. What is something that you, being in the business, you wish you had done sooner? I know there's a couple of things that you talked about, fail forwards, you learn from it, but what is something that you wish you had done sooner, and why?
I wish I had. I worked in the business, kind of rather on the business for a long period of time. So I was here at Float Valley every single day, kind of taking care of the tanks, greeting the customers, which was really important. But at the same time, it was also hindering me in the sense that I didn't get as much time to work on the marketing stuff that was kind of outside of the business. And only after maybe a year and a half did I make sure that there was always somebody besides myself at the front desk and kind of helping and dealing with that stuff. Whereas I think that in hindsight, I would have rather maybe, 6 months earlier had someone doing that, just so that I would have more time to take care of the marketing, and I would have been able to then bring in a little bit more business that way. So it's just kind of a hindsight thing, in the sense that, I should have kind of let those duties or those tasks fall onto someone else maybe, instead of taking it on myself. So just kind of allocating my time differently, maybe.
Delegating a little bit better early on, for sure. It's something we all struggled with when we all first started. I'm going to talk about books. I don't know if you read over the questions, but are you a reader, Nadeem? Before
I am, just not as much as I used to be, but definitely usually have something on the go.
All right, give me your top book recommendation right now.
So I read a book called Stealing Fire by Stephen Kotler. Have you heard of that before?
I had never heard of that.
It's about flow states. So getting into flow states, and so he's one of the leading researcher on flow states and how humans are able to get into these states. So the state of flow is when you're kind of when you're doing an activity that you're so immersed in that you forget about everything else around you, and that's kind of what flow means. And so he has been able to kind of recognize how we get into these states and what signifies a flow state and what mental, what's happening in your brain when you're in a flow state. And so the book is about how people like Navy SEALs, how athletes are using flow states to enhance their craft or enhance how they're doing their activities. And so it's a pretty interesting book.
Very cool. Stealing Fire. I'm going to put that in the notes after. All right. We got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to go into some questions these are some of our questions that clients have asked that I think would be perfect for you, Nadeem, to help me answer. I want to my opinion, and I'll let you do yours after. This is the first question we got from one of our clients is, how do you get proper sleep? Now, staying active and exercise with proper meals is not an issue. For me, this thing goes back to what Nadeem said about routines. I think that's the most important thing, is going to sleep, waking up at the same time every single day and going to sleep at the same time. Really just making it a habit, just like a workout would be one of the ways that you get proper sleep. I think that's the number one. Have a good, just like Nadeem had a morning routine, a good evening routine as well, to make sure that you're sleeping properly. Nadeem, what do you think?
Absolutely. And even just to add to that, you can, for your evening routine, I find keeping your meal times away from sleep does help. Digestion is a really big thing. And so if your body's working hard to digest, then it's not able to then allocate those processes towards sleeping. So kind of just giving your body that rest time when it needs it. I find also anything with screens, so laptops, cell phones, TV, should be minimized when the sun goes down. And if you do end up using the screens, try to have some kind of blocking. So there's like the blue light blockers, those yellow glasses that you see people wear. That's a great way to kind of just let your body relax. Those screens affect the melatonin production, which is what allows us to go to sleep at night. So if you're constantly getting that blue light coming in, your body's not able to realize that, hey, I need to start to relax and it's time to slow down. So kind of minimizing screen use towards bedtime is definitely really helpful.
That's a great point. So making sure you're tricking your body, making sure you're not thinking that it's morning again.
Yeah.
All right. Here's another one. I think this is a question about motivation. How do you have the motivation to keep doing all the small things? My take on this one is it comes down to goals, and goals that, and I made a post about this, about like the strongest emotion is love. If you love a six-pack more than you love cake, you're not gonna do those small things that you're gonna do those small things that you need to do in order to get a six-pack, like, eat properly, prep your meals in advance, work out regularly. And I think understanding your why is what will keep you motivated in the long term. And to keep those small things, because they don't feel like small things when you have a bigger why in the future. Nadeem, what's your take on this?
Yeah, that's a perfect answer, actually. Yeah, so I think just keeping a focus on what your goals are and keeping that always in your mind, when maybe it's tough for you to get out of bed in the morning and you just think about, why do I want to get out of bed in the first place, and what is there that I'm going to do, and what excites me about this? And then that'll kind of help you remember, okay, this is why. And that'll maybe give you the push and the motivation to continue. Including another thing is kind of keeping with the routines, just like we said in the last thing. I mean, if you're always active and you're always exercising and you're eating well, you'll find that you have the energy and the motivation inertly to be able to just get your stuff done. And I find that the cold showers is actually something that's really helped me motivate me to get up and get going. I'll find that when I wake up at first, I don't feel like doing anything, and I'm like, oh, today's a write-off. But as soon as I take my cold shower, all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I'm going to the gym, I got this to do. It just kind of snaps me into place. And so finding something that kind of gets you fired up does help as well.
Love that. It's like a trigger. That cold hitting you is like, oh man, stuff's gonna get real today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So those are only 2 questions, but I do have a last final question for you. I always like asking this. I love Kung Fu. I love action movies that like create a montage of your life. Like, the hero gets beaten up, he has to train really hard, and he comes back and he beats up the guy who beats him up in the whole David and Goliath story arc. I love that. Do you have a favorite Kung Fu action movie, and why?
Probably The Karate Kid.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just because something that I used to watch over and over. I just like that story, and I kind of maybe the fact that he had a good mentor, and the mentor kind of showed him the way on what to do. That really
Wax on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
Always having a good mentor. Well, Nadeem, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. If people want to reach out to you or learn more about your business and what you do, what's the best way to get at you?
Through Instagram, biohackdeem is the handle, or through the Float Valley handle. Both of those would be great.
So biohack Nadeem, Deem,
Biohackdeem.
Okay, cool. Well,
DEEM. Yep.
okay, we'll put those in the notes. And thank you again so much for being on the show and sharing your secrets on health, wealth, and being kick ass. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Joe.